I'm going to give you guys 8 brand new decks today that you can cook up for the new set of Pokemon Pocket Secluded Springs, starting with the legendary Suicune EX deck that I already actually uploaded on my channel. You can check out the matches there. If you don't believe that this is a fantastic deck, I think it might be one of the better meta water type decks, but it's only day one. Only time will tell. I will let you know that I am taking this deck into a tournament today, so fingers crossed we do well. But if you don't know, the legendary beasts have the ability Legendary Pulse that allows them to draw from your deck at the end of your turn if they're in the active spot. This helps you thin out your deck and hit your cards much quicker, which actually feels really good with stage 2 Pokemon, which is why we're running it also with Greninja in our deck. But on top of that, this Crystal Waltz I think is absolutely broken because it reads this attack does 20 damage for each benched Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So if you have 3 and they have 3, that's 120 damage. Okay, so let me paint you a picture real quick. Everyone's bench is full. They have some legendary beasts. Maybe they have a Darkrai. Doesn't matter. You can Greninja their Suicune EX, Entei, Raikou, whatever you want. And then you can Cyrus because we're running double Cyrus here. And now your Suicune hits them for 120 before they can even touch you, and you just pick up 2 points. As easy as that. On top of that, we're running 2 Mantikes here. We actually got the Crown Rare, which is insane luck today. Today's been a very lucky day. I'm very happy with my pulls. We were able to finish the entire set and get 2 of everything. So with that being said, we're running double Mantike here, which can help us if we're going first to ramp our Suicune. So that way on turn 2, we can come in, dish out damage, and then draw with it to potentially get our Greninja by turn 3 if we don't have it already. So right there, fantastic deck. We have the Pokeflutes to bring back their basic Pokemons that we've knocked out to further increase Suicune's damage or potentially add to Greninja's package of Cyrusing them and sniping them and winning the game that way. But that is only the first deck. So get comfortable. We got a few more to go over. Next one is Utter Despair, which fantastic name. Shout out to my chat for coming up with these names. They are so good. But this essentially works with Miltank and Darkrai. The idea is you lead with Miltank, you give it an energy, and you hope your opponent doesn't have repels or Sabrina's. If they do, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. You have to reset. But now let's talk about Miltank right here. It's a basic non-EX Pokemon with 110 HP that dishes out 10 damage for 1 energy. However, every time it uses this move, you add 30 the next time. So it goes from 10 to 40 to 70 to 100 to 130. Crazy damage, right? Well, the idea is you give this guy 1 energy, but then your Darkrai is on the bench and you give it more energy. So let's go do that math again real quick. Let's pretend you start off with 10, and then the next turn that becomes a 60, that becomes a 90, that becomes 120. Do you see what I'm saying? Like the damage output actually increases because you're able to also ping with Darkrai. And then the rest of this deck is pretty much supporter cards that really help us out. We have a Cape, a Rocky Helmet, we have a Leaf in case we start with our Darkrai. We also have a Lyra in case if we want to pivot out our Miltank into our Darkrai because Miltank requires 3 retreat costs. We have a Cyrus, Sabrina to close out games. We also have this Whitney card, which is really cool. I guess we can full screen it because it's a beautiful card and it really helps Miltank. It says heal 60 damage from one of your Miltank and it recovers from being asleep, paralyzed, or confused. It does pretty much everything except for poison, does not heal for that. We also have a Silver, a Guzma, and again, here's the full deck list for the Utter Despair. Would love to hear your guys' opinions in the comments. I'm excited to play this later on today. Next one is Raging Clap. Yeah, that's the name. And to be honest, I'm a little iffy about this. However, the idea, which I discussed with chat, is a very aggressive approach. And because we have so many basic Pokemon, I thought maybe the genetic Apex Pikachu could also find a home here. A lot of people suggested Zeraora. I'm just personally not a fan of Zeraora. And because of that, maybe we don't really need double elemental switches. Maybe there's a world where we play 1 elemental switch and an electrical cord. But the idea for double elemental switches is I'll share with you. Let's say we're running our Raikou, we're sniping in the back, we have 2 energy on that. Well, we can leaf into our other non-EX Raikou if they have something like an Oricorio, and now we can just elemental switch one of those energies and get going instantly. We can do the same thing for our Pikachu, just retreat with leaf and then elemental switch onto our Pikachu, get going with 90 damage. So there's so many options there to just retreat and then use that extra energy that I think elemental switches is actually good in this. We're running a Cape, a Rocky Helmet, helmet, the Pichus to help us ramp, and then the Oricorio to kind of stop our opponents, any of their EX Pokemon. But yeah, that's Raging Clap. Next up is a deck that has a better name, and it's called Firestorm. And we're running Magby because obviously any of these decks I think are going to require one of the baby Pokemon that can help them ramp. But also there is an idea to this deck list. There is a vision to this deck list that I would love to take you guys through. I already talked about it on Twitter, but I'll talk about it again. In a perfect world, you guys, you're going second and you give your energy to your active spot Entei EX, okay? And then you give your Turtonator on the bench, you put your Turtonator on the bench and you key away your Turtonator and your turn ends, okay? Now it has 2 energy on your turn, and then your turn ends and your legendary pulse activates, so you get to draw a card and you draw that miraculous Professor Research, okay? The following turn, at the start of your turn, you draw an elemental switch. You take your energy from your energy zone, you attach it to your Entei EX, and then you research and you find your second elemental switch. Well, do you know what you're doing now? You're using both of those, moving the energies that you've already given your Turtonator to your Entei EX, and now you're smacking your opponent for 120 damage on turn 2. Listen, it's not practical. It's not always going to happen, but it can happen, and that's enough for me. With that being said, we also have a Sabrina, a Cyrus, a Lyra to pivot out our Turt, or even our Entei if we need to, and a Silver for a little bit of disruption. I really like this deck. I don't think it's the best variation for Entei just yet. Honestly, it might be. I don't know. We're going to find out. Also, Turt's a really good counter into Oricorios, which you'll notice all of these legendary beast decks have a good counter. Next up is another somewhat spicy yet toxic deck list, and it's called Can't Touch This. Why? You might ask. Well, let's go talk about the new EX Pokemon Jumpluff. It's a stage 2. It's 160 grass type with a colorless move. Oh, that's interesting. It says Breeze by Attack, 70 damage. And it says here you may switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. Now, you may switch. You don't have to. It's an option. Okay, well, if you're going to give me that option, I'm going to do some crazy things with that. Like, for example, maybe play a Darkrai on the bench and be able to ping damage with Dark Energy, since this guy will never get hit because I can just switch out my Jumpluff into my Zangoose, which if you don't know what Zangoose does, it's literally Drud, but with less HP, and it retreats for 1 energy. That energy kind of, we don't really want to give that energy because we want to give the Darkrai the energy for ping damage. Well, we have a Shaman that says, as long as this Pokemon's on your bench, your active basic Pokemon retreat cost is 1. So let me also paint you another picture. Here's my vision. We Jumpluff, we hit them 70, we pivot right into our Zangoose. They hit our Zangoose, they take 20. Okay, that's cool. Our next turn, we can retreat for free back into our Jumpluff for another 70, but also Darkrai can hit for 20. So that's 160 damage across 2 turns. That's 180 damage across 2 turns because of our Zangoose. I know. How does my brain do this? I don't know. Sometimes I amaze myself. We have red card, 2 rare candies. This is day 1, you guys. 2 Pokeballs, 2 researchers, a Sabrina, Cyrus, and a Silver. The Silver is there to really synergize with red card because I feel like when you're running this type of strategy of ping damage, just having this extra bit of annoyance is really helpful. Next up is Waterfall Fists, which, you know what? I'm not mad at. That's a good name. This is running the brand new Poliwrath EX, which if you guys don't know, is a very interesting card. A lot of people were like, oh, you have to play this with the Politoed from the last set, but I don't think you have to. Instead, this already just does 100 damage for fighting energy. However, if it also has a water energy, it'll do an additional 40 damage. So it has the option to do 140 for 3 energy. Now, we're only running fighting energy in this deck, but the idea is you can Mantike your early Poliwag. Once it has that energy, well, then the following turn, you could just rare candy into Poliwrath and then start hitting for 140. It's actually crazy. If you go second, you can start Mantike, you can take your energy, attach it to Poliwag, you can ramp with Mantike, and then turn 2 retreat into Poliwrath. Like I said, rare candy, that's 140. We also have Riolu here because why stop at 140 when you could hit all the way up to 180, buddy? With double Lucarios on the bench, you can go from 160 to 180. Why not? Why not? Tell me why not. This is kind of crazy, and I feel like It is a almost better version of Dragonite EX, or what Dragonite EX is trying to be. But if you have the double Lucas and that water energy, you're hitting for a lot of damage. Also, there's a world where you also have a Politoed on the bench and you can dish up to 220 damage with Poliwrath EX. Yeah, maybe we'll try it. You guys let me know in the comments. But the rest of this deck is just communication to help us find our cards, a cape to give us a little bit more health, and a Cyrus, which you might want to switch out to something with sustain like a Lily. But that's kind of where we stopped on for this deck. I thought, you know, this is a good starting point to see how strong Poliwrath EX really is. Next up is a Psychic deck, and it's using this brand new Mischievous right here that says Infiltrating Inspection ability. Once during your turn, when you put this Pokemon on your bench, so it's not on your active, it has to go on your bench. If you start with it, kind of stinks. This ability does nothing. Not the end of the world though. You get to look at your opponent's hand. You're getting information. And with that information, I think you can do some fun stuff. Now, this isn't a crazy new deck. It's just a spicy deck. It could be a horrible deck, but it's using another new card that I think is going to be very strong for Psychic types, which we'll talk about. But real quick, if you guys are wondering, we're throwing in the Unknown Guard and the Unknown Power to essentially beef up our Mischievous and Mismagius, help us do 80 damage for 2 energy and confuse our opponent, while also having a Giratina on bench that we can ramp or add energy to get that guy online. But the real powerhouse of this deck, I think, is the Morty card, which I don't have a full art yet, but check this guy out. With the double unknowns, the Mischievous and the Giratina, for each of your Psychic Pokemon in play, look at that many cards from the top of your opponent's deck and put them back in any order. This is going to be pretty toxic with things like Espeon and Sylveon, I imagine, for people who are still going to play those decks, which they're going to still play those decks. But I wanted to go a different route. I wanted to do something fun. I wanted to bring back one of my favorite Pokemon, Mismagius. Obviously not the shiny. The shiny doesn't look that great, but we got a double shiny, so why not? But yeah, there's my more troll. Instead of Morty, it's more troll because it's really trolly, just telling your opponent you can't play the game. That's the more troll deck list, which brings us to our final deck list. And is Umbreon good now? I don't know. Let's find out. We have Inkay into Malamar, and this is why I'm asking if Umbreon is good. Genuinely asking, because Malamar says for 1 energy, we are going to do 20 damage to each of our opponent's Pokemon. Their active, their bench, all of them. Okay, well, Umbreon says we get to essentially Cyrus one of their benched Pokemon. I don't think it was good last set. Everyone was like, Umbreon's going to be broken. But I think with Malamar, there might be room for Umbreon to be really, really strong. And here's the rest of the deck. We have double Darkrai's and 2 Eevees to help us evolve into our Umbreons. These are the Eevees that also find a friend. 2 Pokeballs, a cape, and 2 Dark Pendants, because finally it's a full deck list. Well, almost a full deck list, but outside of the Eevees, of Darkness Pokemon. And then our supporter cards are going to be Leaf to pivot out that Darkrai in case you start with it, a Red to get our damage from Umbreon up to 100, and then a Sabrina for disruption. But there you guys have it. Those are my top 8 deck lists for day 1. Let me know what you think. I think the Legendary Beasts and Jumpluff here, and maybe even Poliwrath, are going to be a lot of fun and possibly pretty strong. This seems like the healthiest set where we actually received an EX Pokemon that was good across the board. I don't think there's a single EX Pokemon that we got this set that isn't good. Maybe Raikou, but we'll see. Only time will tell. Let me know in the comments what you think. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.